All right, still hot as balls. I'm recording this back to back from the previous video, although it'll probably take me a few extra days to edit it and get it up online, so I apologize for the delay, but I do want to continue a couple trains of thought here from the previous video about this 3-4 Joseki pattern. The last video, for those of you who are watching this without having seen the previous Joseki for Kyus videos, we investigated this move. And we talked about some of the reasons why you'd want to play it, and we looked at a number of variations that come out of it. This video is going to be much lighter and much simpler. We hinted at this being sort of the other variation that white can play when white just wants to settle. And indeed, it's going to be a very short video, because there's really only a couple of variations that are normal here. Primarily, we'll look at a second move for black, but primarily black almost always plays this one. And so this is sort of the, well, I guess I should even play one more move here. These 5 stones make up a pretty core pattern when white approaches low and just wants to settle, right? That's basically what white is trying to do here. Now, one problem with this is that white should sort of usually have the ladder, even though these are pretty simple variations. I'm going to show you sort of one of the really fiendish non-ladder variations, or ladder variations. There we go, not non-ladder variations. That thing. Okay, good. After this. But basically black at this point has the choice, has really just 2 choices. He can let white settle and perhaps get a little bit more of the corner than black does, or he can take the corner for himself and let white get the outside, specifically get influence on the right-hand side, most normally, again, assuming white has a ladder. The really simple version, the one that every one of you Q players need to know, is black just backs off, white just backs off, black starts to build the right, white turns. This move is actually quite large. And then if black doesn't have anything else on the right-hand side, usually black will play one more move over here. It's maybe there or even there. It just depends on the spacing you want on the right-hand side. Although black could switch directions and protect the top and prevent the top from getting attacked if that is the bigger move. But anyway, this is any one of these. Basically, black will play on one of these 2 sides here. And that's more or less settled. That's it. And if you look very carefully, it actually is impossible to kill white. White has 2 eyes on the situation. However, it's not always clear whether or not killing moves are sente, right? Because white can still settle this way or get out or come into the corner. It's not entirely clear, which of these moves black wants. Like black might want to come from this way and just give up this stone and let white live this way. So black doesn't usually play any of them right now, basically, is all I'm trying to say. So white's alive. Black is basically has influence on 2 sides and has sente, so it's a pretty fair result. In general, though, I think usually you don't see this that often because it feels like black is giving white what white wants, more so than what white is giving black what black wants. And the reason is because, remember, white came in here low and just wanted to settle, like cleanly and simply, and that's exactly what white got. So, even though black's compensation is totally fine, you never want to give your opponent what he or she wants. But this is like sort of the expected, like, super simple variation that comes out of the low approach pincer Joseki. If you want to think of this something akin to a 4-4 Joseki, you can kind of think of it being similar in terms of its simplicity. Whoops, not that one. I want to block this way. This Joseki that we've talked about in a previous Joseki for Kyus video. This is really simple. White gets a base and solid. Black takes some influence. And, it's just that sort of level of simplicity where everyone knows it. It doesn't get played. I mean, this one actually gets played quite a bit. The one up here doesn't get played nearly as often as that one does in the bottom right-hand corner. But again, it just has that same place in the Joseki repertoire, right? Being very easy, white approaches and just settles. And here is again one more time in turn, very big turn. If white does something else, like play here, this would be actually a pretty unfortunate. Well, it depends on the board. Actually, I can't really say without knowing what's on the rest of the board. If white already has a position over here, maybe this is a really appropriate type of move. But in this case, it's going to feel a lot like an empty move. because in this case white's still going to have to come back and play this, and now black got to play on both sides, right? This move doesn't really do much. If we go back and just not play that move and just turn, now white gets to play another move, which might be better off suited to here. So once white's settled, white doesn't usually try to keep playing in this area locally, right? Now the outside becomes bigger. Okay, that's the really simple variation. There's a slightly harder variation that comes out of this. Again, starts the same way. But instead of black backing off, black takes this Atari. And, you know, at least in the Joseki places I've been looking up, this is, first of all, not played very often. It's totally Joseki. Everyone knows it. Like, it's like one of these Josekis that everyone knows but no one ever plays. But second, I have some questions about this Joseki. So if you're a stronger player watching this, maybe you can shed some light on some things, or you know, share it with someone who is a stronger player and get back to me, because this specifically involves a ladder, and it's my belief here that black actually gets a pretty decent result, even or sorry, if white doesn't have a ladder. That's what I want to say. If black gets a pretty nice result, like definite positive result in this variation, if white doesn't have a ladder. And I'll show you why. So here's the, before we show you the ladder part, here's sort of the Joseki classic, right, that everyone knows and learns. White does not connect here. This is a disaster, right? You do this, black is almost definitely going to play there, and then maybe attack. I guess if black was feeling particularly greedy, actually this still works, but it's got a little bit of a problem here with moves like this later on. Well, maybe white can't live. Well, I guess white would need the ladder in this case quite directly. Maybe black can lean first and then play this. Yeah, and that looks pretty good for black. Okay, so that would be terrible for white, right? Just terrible. So instead, white can't connect. Theoretically, white could offer a ko, but again, this is Joseki, and very, very, very few Joseki actually have kos into it, because whoever takes first is usually going to win the ko. Again, there's nothing else valuable or super valuable on the board, so black's is not going to respond to any threat. So white's only choice here is to give up this, make a ko offer of his own that black will not accept for the exact same reasons, and then come back and connect. Now, if white doesn't have the ladder, this is going to be the much safer connection. However, this connection is really dumb looking, because black's just going to peep and probably connect out. And now it's actually kind of hard for white to know how to make a base over here, because there's still defects. But this is basically Joseki. We'll say this Joseki, even though I think black actually gets quite a nice result here. You know, a couple of these stones, like this stone, doesn't look like it's in a really good spot. You might be thinking, well, hey, white can push here. But even if black just connects and just gives up a stone, I don't know, it just feels like black is getting a lot. Maybe black can't play that. Maybe this is okay. Maybe this is totally okay. But usually this tiger's mouth shape is really suspect. And maybe actually black takes these peeps immediately and then connects. I mean, I can't believe this is good shape for white. So, normally, right, white doesn't make this tiger's mouth and white plays here. The book move, right, going back to my previous line of thinking, was to play here. And then white will make a base here. And so white will take the outside and have a base over here. Black will have a, you know, medium, small-ish corner, but will also be connected to the outside. So I think locally this is actually a good result for black, or let's say it's close enough. It's close enough. However, again, going back to this ladder situation, if white connects here, I don't see a really compelling reason why black just can't cut right away. And you could say, well, again, assuming black has a ladder, if white has a ladder, white will just capture the stone, and this is a net minus for black. But assuming black has the ladder, like so, white can't really Atari this way, right? This is a train wreck. So white has to find a useful way to sacrifice this stone. And I don't really know what that is. And obviously, white could play something very, very simple like this. But now, this feels like I mean, even though white's influence got 1 stone larger, black's territory is much more solid and actually worth quite a few points now. Let's see exactly how many points. About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's about 15 points. And white definitely doesn't have 15 points here yet, especially with black having Sente. So to me, this feels like a really nice result for black. So I'd love for a stronger player to look at this and tell me why, you know, white, why there's maybe there already is all this concern about the ladder, and I just was never taught it by anyone. Because I was just taught to play here, right? This is just almost always Joseki. If you look it up in a book, it says, like, it usually includes like this as a variation, but it says this is inferior, so just play this one. And so the question, I guess, is really, well, is this always inferior, or is it actually better when white doesn't have the ladder? And I suspect the latter, not the ladder. Yeah, it's the ladder based on the ladder. Confusing myself, but this is still, I don't know. It feels good for black. It just feels good for black. So, going back to the conclusion here, when white plays this one, and black responds here, I feel like, you know, white is successful, right? White has basically taken away the corner, and granted, not gotten very many points, but has taken away the corner effectively. When black plays this one, and oh, the same. This applies doubly. If white plays here, white really needs the ladder here in order to play this, and I think this is a bad connection anyway, because you don't really want to defend the side that your opponent is stronger on, or try to build the side that your opponent's stronger on. Again, if black has a ladder here, this is really cruel. So we see this one. Again, the most book move is just to connect up to the outside stone. This guarantees life for the corner too. If you don't have to play a move here like you can in Tanuki, but it does give your opponent a lot of Sente moves. Maybe something like this, if white is worried about the ladder. So, yeah, I think white would be pretty happy here. Actually, can white play this one? This looks like it's a cool move. Alright, so there's definitely a ladder. Is there this net just work? Yeah, this net just works. Of course, if you play all the way out here, you have to be willing to give up a stone, I think. For sure. So I don't know, pick a move. Or maybe, oh wait, is there just a net? If we just defend this way? I should actually just look at these. There is this a net here. So I guess this one just works with avoiding the ladder. But I don't think this one does, right? Sorry, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, this one doesn't because of the placement of that stone. Okay. So that's cool. So that's why, anyway, black usually plays here, just to make sure black doesn't get sealed in. But again, it's not perfect Sente to continue here. Black, if there was like another group you could play Sente moves against, in theory, black could play them right now. Perhaps even to get a ladder breaker. You know, if this threatens this corner somehow, and then you play here, like maybe that's a pretty reasonable type of thing to do. You know, black can play a ladder breaker before deciding on what to do here, if the ladder breaker is threatening. So anyway, this is, I would say, probably the first Joseki you should be taught, or learn, not be taught, you should learn when your opponent low pincers you, right, is sort of this sort of settling variation. But, you know, quite honestly, you don't see it that often. Part of the reason, again, is just because, number one, when people play this, or people don't play low approach that often, right? Far more common now. And these used to be a much more common move, you know, if you go back a few decades. So reason number one why I don't see it is because, again, people play this. Reason number two, when people play low, it usually means they're wanting to fight, and at least in today's, I don't know, Joseki? I don't know, just Joseki meta? Is that even a thing I have authority enough to talk about. These Joseki are actually quite simple. White just is building outside and settling, right? These are much simpler Joseki, at least the more common ones, right? And these get played all the time. Even the Avalanche, right? I mean, it's complicated for Kyus, but it can also simplify for stronger players as well. So that's pretty. So just the high versus low thing makes it uncommon. When you do get low pincered, and again, low pincer isn't necessarily always the most common, right? The 2-space high is also quite common, as is just backing off and playing very simply. But when you do get low pincered, it's also often inviting, or so you're willing to get pincered because you want to fight and play a move like this, or like this. I would say this is probably the most common thing at professional level. Again, I haven't actually looked at statistics to back this up. This is purely just from me looking at games. I see this variation quite a bit. So it's a little bit in fashion. So yeah, and then this one, you know, if white just tries to settle, it feels like black's going to get a good result. So that's all. Oh, right, I promised you one other variation. So again, when white attaches here, again, normally black plays here. Black can play here. If black doesn't mind just giving up the corner, just period, black can play here and just take the outside. And I think this variation is actually quite underappreciated for black. Like, I think this is quite good enough. White has 2 choices. White can play here and just crawl and then take a sente move. Like, this is fine. The more book variation says white should cut here, though I don't think this is that great of a result. You know, something like this. White takes the corner and starts a fight. But, you know, if white has outside support before doing this, totally possible. Totally possible. Oh, that was a big truck. Oh, that was a huge American flag in the back of that truck. That truck was just like, pff, America. 12-foot flag or something crazy. Yeah, that happens apparently out here. Maybe if white has a stone here. I don't know, but see if white has a stone here. I don't know, white would be, oops, pretty happy just doing this too. It turns out if white has outside stones, white likes to play every variation. Every variation. Yeah, pick a move and then make it more complicated. So yeah, all right, should be a much easier set of variations. Right, this is super easy one. Ta-da! We have this little counter pseudo thing that is a little bookish, but also totally Joseki-ish. And we have this third one that black can play, although this is saying black is just interested in the outside. But it's still a move, so totally allowed. All right, so I hope after the last video that, again, might have been a little brain-wrecking with these variations. I hope this was a nice, you know, more chill, relaxing follow-up that you guys were able to follow a little bit more easily. All right, so that was another episode with Joseki for Kyus. Please like this video and subscribe. See you guys later.